beneath a sky swallowed by darkness, where clouds churn like ancient beasts, and the air grows heavy with the echo of untold destinies. A lone figure stands at the threshold of fate. No wind stirs, no star dares to shine. It is as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for the moment when silence breaks and destiny awakens. The hero stands motionless at first, not out of fear, but because some part of them knows that everything is about to change. This is the kind of stillness that comes before a storm, the kind that tells you something powerful and irreversible is approaching. Each heartbeat feels louder than the last, echoing through the emptiness like a drum calling a warrior to rise. Somewhere deep within that darkness, beneath layers of uncertainty and forgotten memories, a power begins to tremble. It is faint at first, like a whisper carried through endless corridors, but it grows steadily, pulsing with a rhythm older than time. It calls to the one standing beneath the shadowed sky, not with words, but with a truth that cannot be ignored. This is the moment the universe has been circling around, the moment when something long buried stirs from its slumber. And as the air thickens and the ground seems to hum with invisible energy, a voice breaks through the silence, guiding us into the heart of this awakening. In the deepest shadows, a forgotten power begins to rise, and today we witness the awakening of the Chosen One. That single line carries the weight of legends. It reminds us that some powers are not found, they are remembered. They awaken not because someone seeks them, but because the world needs them. And so we find ourselves at the beginning of a story woven through destiny, sacrifice, and the unstoppable pull of fate. It raises the timeless question that lingers in every myth, every prophecy, every tale etched into the fabric of forgotten civilizations. Why does a chosen one exist at all? What compels fate to pick a single soul out of countless millions and shape them into something extraordinary, something capable of shaking the world to its core? Perhaps a chosen one exists because the world always reaches a point where ordinary strength is no longer enough. Perhaps there comes a time when darkness grows too thick, when hope fades to a flicker, and when the balance threatens to collapse unless someone stands up, not by chance, but by destiny. A chosen one is more than a hero. They are the answer to the world's unspoken plea. They represent the power hidden within humanity, the courage forgotten in times of despair, the flame waiting to be reignited. Their awakening marks the turning of an era, the rise of a force capable of rewriting everything that seemed inevitable. And so we ask, what makes this awakening so crucial? It is crucial because within this transformation lies the spark that will either save the world or reshape it entirely. The moment the chosen one opens their eyes to who they truly are, everything begins to shift. The darkness trembles, the future realigns. The long-forgotten power, once sealed away, now hungers to burst forth and illuminate the world once more. This awakening is not simply a surge of strength. It is the convergence of destiny and identity, the instant when a soul steps beyond fear and remembers what it was always meant to be. If you enjoy epic, legendary themes like this, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. In the beginning, before the darkness swallowed the horizon, and before the skies dimmed with the weight of approaching fate, the world was not unlike a vast tapestry, woven with threads of forgotten magic and trembling prophecy. Hidden among those threads was the story of a child born far from kings, battles, and crowns, born instead on the outskirts of civilization, where ancient forests whispered secrets only the wind could understand, and where the night sky shone clearer than anywhere else in the land. The hero did not arrive in this world beneath golden banners or surrounded by noble witnesses. Instead, their first breath was taken under the soft glow of starlight in a small village untouched by war, nestled between towering mountains and glimmering lakes that seemed to hold echoes of ages long lost. Their parents were simple people, known not for power or influence, but for kindness, humility, and the ability to live in harmony with the land. They did not know the prophecy that had been spoken centuries before. They did not know that deep beneath the roots of the world, a dormant force had stirred the moment their child opened their eyes. All they knew was that the child possessed a stillness unlike any they had ever seen, as if the universe itself paused for a heartbeat, to acknowledge the arrival of someone rare, someone meant for more than an ordinary life. But prophecy has a way of weaving itself into the fabric of existence, whether one chooses to acknowledge it or not. And so, while the child grew, so too did the whispers surrounding them. Elders would sometimes pause mid-sentence when the child walked past, struck by an inexplicable sense of familiarity, though they had never seen the child before. Animals behaved strangely around them as well. Wild creatures, normally fearful of humans, would approach without hesitation, standing close as if to feel the warmth of something ancient radiating from the child's presence. Even storms altered their paths, bending around the village as if unwilling to disturb the place where the chosen one slept. As the hero reached their early years, subtle signs began to emerge, small, delicate indicators that destiny was already pulling them toward a path few could endure. There were nights when the moon hung low and bright, casting silver shadows across the fields, and the child would wander outside, drawn by a force they couldn't explain. They would stand motionless beneath the pale sky, eyes reflecting the moonlight as though absorbing something hidden within its glow. Their parents occasionally found them asleep in the grass at dawn, peaceful and untouched by cold, as if the night had wrapped itself around them protectively. When the child spoke their first words, the wind shifted. When they laughed, leaves rustled in response even on windless days, and when they cried, the earth seemed to tremble, ever so faintly, though no one at the time fully understood what it meant. Some of the villagers grew uneasy, whispering that no ordinary child could influence the world in such subtle yet undeniable ways. Others claimed the child was blessed by the spirits, a gift rather than a threat. But prophecy is always met with a mixture of fear and reverence, and the village, small and quiet as it was, could not ignore the growing sense that something extraordinary slept within the child's heart. The hero's origins, however humble, were intertwined with forces far older than the village itself. Long before their birth, the ancient world had known chaos, conflicts between light and shadow that scarred the earth and fractured kingdoms. Legends spoke of a divine force that once protected the balance, a power capable of quelling darkness with a single pulse of radiant energy. But when the final battle was fought and the world plunged into temporary peace, that power faded from sight, hidden away by guardians who believed the age of heroes had passed. They sealed it, so that only one soul, born under a rare alignment of celestial signs, could one day awaken it again. That soul was the hero. They were chosen not because they sought greatness, but because the world would one day need someone who did not crave power, yet possessed the heart necessary to wield it. In prophecy, these criteria are not merely poetic, they are essential. Power given to the ambitious breeds domination. Power given to the fearful creates ruin. But power given to the compassionate has the potential to reshape everything. As the hero grew older, the signs of awakening became more pronounced. During festivals, when the village lit lanterns and released them into the night sky, the hero's lantern always soared the highest, glowing brighter than the rest, as if drawn upward by an invisible hand. When they touched the old stone shrine at the edge of the woods, the carvings flickered with faint golden light, though no one else could replicate the phenomenon. It was during these moments that the elders exchanged glances, full of unspoken worry, hope, and awe, for they recognized patterns described in prophecies written long before any of them were born. The hero remained unaware of their significance for much of their youth. They saw themselves as no different from the other children, though their quiet, thoughtful nature often set them apart. They rarely sought attention, preferring the solitude of the forest where they felt inexplicably at home. There, among towering trees and ancient stones covered in moss, they sometimes felt something stirring deep within, an emotion, a vibration, a whisper they could not understand. It was not frightening but familiar, like the distant memory of a lullaby heard long ago. The first true sign of awakening occurred on a night when the sky was darker than any the village had seen in decades. Clouds blotted out the moon, stars vanished behind swirling shadows, and an uneasy chill crawled through the air. The village animals grew restless, pacing and emitting low cries, while villagers gathered inside their homes, sensing something unnatural approaching. The hero, however, could not sleep. They felt an undeniable pull, a pressure in their chest urging them toward the forest. Every instinct told them to stay inside, But destiny is not something that can be ignored. They stepped out into the cold, the world unnaturally silent around them, and made their way toward the edge of the woods. As they reached the clearing, the sky trembled. A single beam of faint light pierced through the darkness, illuminating the hero as though the heavens themselves were searching for them. The child lifted their hand toward the light, and for the first time, the dormant power responded. A pulse rippled through the air, gentle yet unmistakably ancient, swirling around the hero before fading into the night. They stumbled back in shock, breathing heavily, their heart racing. They didn't understand what had happened, but deep inside something clicked, a fragment of recognition, as if the awakening had begun not with a roar, but with a whisper, promising that far greater things were yet to come. This moment marked the beginning of their journey, the first undeniable sign that destiny had begun to move. The world around them remained quiet, unaware of the shift that had taken place beneath the darkened sky. But the ancient power, now stirred from its long slumber, pulsed faintly within the hero's chest, waiting for the day it would fully rise and reveal the true nature of the one who had been chosen. And so the call of destiny had begun. Not loud, not violent, but steady and unyielding, threading itself into the hero's life, guiding them toward the path they were always meant to walk. The night after the first whisper of awakening lingered like a secret only the universe understood. Days passed in quiet tension, as if nature itself was waiting for something to unfold. The hero felt it too, a constant hum beneath their ribcage, a pulse that was not quite heartbeat, not quite voice, but something in between. It grew stronger each sunrise and deeper each nightfall, threading through their every moment like an invisible current, awakening veins that had never carried such power before. They tried to ignore it at first, convincing themselves that the strange moment in the forest was only a dream, a hallucination summoned by fear or exhaustion. But destiny does not allow itself to be forgotten, and neither does a power that has slept for centuries. The shift began subtly. Light bent toward the hero even on cloudy days, catching the edges of their silhouette, wrapping around them like a halo only visible at the corners of one's eye. Leaves trembled when they walked past. Water rippled even without wind. Shadows flickered unnaturally around them, as though unsure whether to retreat from the rising brilliance or cling to the last remnants of normalcy. The hero felt the changes, but did not yet understand them. They believed something was wrong with them, unaware that something was finally becoming right. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and painted the sky with streaks of gold fading to bruised purple, the tension building inside the hero reached a breaking point. They stood at the same clearing where the first pulse had awakened, hoping for clarity, but instead they were met with an overwhelming surge that dropped them to their knees. It started as a warmth in the chest, soft and harmless, but it quickly grew into a blazing heat that radiated through every nerve. Their breath hitched, and for a moment they feared their body might erupt apart from the inside. The world around them dimmed, blurred, then sharpened with terrifying intensity. They pressed their hand against the earth, and the ground trembled in response. Not a quake, not nature. It was the power reacting to their fear. The air thickened with raw energy, swirling in spirals that distorted the shadows around them. The hero's vision flashed white, then blue, then white again, until everything was washed in shimmering brilliance. Light burst from their skin in thin, jagged lines, like fractures glowing beneath the surface of reality. Their heartbeat roared in their ears, impossibly loud, matching the rhythm of something ancient that was now fully awake within them. Their eyes snapped open, not in the quiet softness of normal awakening, but in a violent blaze that illuminated the clearing. The pupils vanished, replaced by radiant light that cut through the darkness like twin stars in human form. The forest reacted instantly. Trees shuddered as if bowing to a force of nature. Wind spiraled upward, tearing leaves from branches and casting them into a whirling dance around the hero. Then came the eruption. The shockwave exploded outward from their body, silent yet earth-shaking. The ground rippled beneath it, sending vibrations far into the surrounding woods. Stones cracked, soil split. The air turned electric, tasting of ozone and ancient storms. Lines of golden energy surged across the earth like veins awakening in the planet's skin, converging toward the hero as if they were a magnet pulling the life force of the world toward them. They gasped as the energy shot up their spine, arching their body in a pulse of blinding intensity. Time seemed to fracture around them, stretching thin as the power within them erupted fully for the first time. Light spilled from their fingertips, from their eyes, from their very breath, flooding the forest with a brilliance that pushed back every shadow in sight. The clearing, moments ago dark and cold, now glowed as if the sun had risen from the ground instead of the sky. But this eruption was more than spectacle. It was symbolism made manifest. Light blossoming from the hero's form was not merely illumination, it was the embodiment of hope, the restoration of a promise the world had forgotten. It signified that within even the deepest darkness, a spark waits to ignite, to reveal truth, to guide the lost. The energy rising and swirling around them was the essence of freedom, freedom from fear, limitation, and the invisible chains that had bound the hero their entire life. It was every suppressed emotion, every hidden strength, every quiet dream finally bursting free. And the violent eruption itself, shaking earth and sky, was the breaking of boundaries, the shattering of the limits imposed on them since birth. It was the universe acknowledging that the chosen one had crossed the threshold between ordinary existence and something far greater. The hero's body trembled as wave after wave of raw power cascaded through them, each surge stronger than the last. The air hummed with intensity, vibrating against their skin, weaving currents that lifted them slightly off the ground. Their feet left the soil, their arms spread instinctively as streams of radiant energy flowed upward, like rivers of light pouring into the night sky. The forest glowed with reflected brilliance, turning every leaf silver gold, every branch a twisting shadow etched with shimmering highlights. Pain mingled with awe, terror with wonder. For every second the power grew, the hero felt a duality rising, the sensation of losing themselves and finding themselves at once. The light within them was not foreign, it was familiar, like a forgotten memory rising from the deepest depths of their being. It whispered in tones older than language, telling them that they were not breaking, but becoming, not drowning, but awakening, not chosen by accident, but shaped by destiny. The climax of the awakening came with a final colossal surge. A pillar of pure light shot into the sky from the hero's core, piercing the clouds and illuminating the heavens with blinding radiance. Stars flickered in response, the wind roared, and for a moment the entire world seemed to pause, recognizing the return of a power once believed lost forever. The hero hovered in the center of this storm of brilliance, their silhouette sharp and almost celestial, eyes burning like twin embers of dawn. Then, as abruptly as it began, the storm subsided. The light dimmed gradually, sinking back into the hero's body like water returning to a deep well. The wind softened. The trembling earth eased into silence. The last echo of energy settled beneath their skin, pulsing gently, no longer violent but steady and controlled. They fell to their knees, breath ragged, heart thundering, sweat mingling with the soft glow that still clung faintly to their skin. The clearing was transformed. The ground still bore the scars of the eruption, cracks glowing faintly with warmth, as though they remembered the power that had coursed through them only moments before. But beyond the physical destruction, something deeper had changed. The air felt lighter, cleansed. The darkness that once hung over the forest had receded, replaced by a lingering radiance that would not fade soon. The heroes stared at their hands, trembling as faint sparks danced across their palms before fading into silence. They had felt the true force within them, a force capable of reshaping the world, saving it, or destroying it if misused. And beneath the exhaustion, beneath the fear and confusion, a singular truth settled into their heart. The awakening had begun. Not gently, not quietly, but with a surge powerful enough to shake creation awake. They were no longer a child of obscurity, no longer someone who walked unnoticed through the village. They were the vessel of an ancient power, the bearer of a forgotten promise, the one destined to rise when the world needed them most. And now that the power had awakened, Destiny would no longer wait. It would pull them forward, step by step, into the role they were born to fulfill, whether they felt ready or not. The forest was quiet after the eruption of power, yet it was not the kind of silence born from absence. It was the silence that follows revelation, a hush that felt sacred, a stillness that seemed deliberate, as if the world itself refused to interrupt the moment that would define the rest of the hero's life. The air around them still shimmered faintly, echoing the remnants of energy that had surged moments before, and each breath they took tasted like starlight mixed with smoke. They remained on their knees, trembling, the weight of everything pressing down upon them with the force of a newly awakened universe. For a long time, the hero merely stared at their own hands, watching the dim traces of light weave across their skin like living threads of destiny. These were the same hands they had used to gather firewood, to touch the bark of ancient trees, to comfort themselves in lonely moments. And yet, now, they felt different, heavier, more purposeful, as if every line, every ridge, every scar held a story they had yet to understand. The power inside them was no longer hidden or dormant. It pulsed quietly beneath the surface, an ever-present reminder that something monumental had begun. They rose slowly, their legs unsteady, but their eyes sharper than they had ever been. The glow had faded from them, but its memory clung vividly to their gaze. Something fundamental had shifted there. Their eyes were not merely eyes anymore. They were windows to a deeper truth. In their depths, one could see traces of the light that had erupted earlier, faint but persistent, like embers refusing to die even after the fire had quieted. Those eyes no longer held the innocence of a child from a forgotten village. They carried focus, weight, and the echo of a destiny awakening from centuries of sleep. Their posture changed too, almost without conscious effort. They straightened, shoulders no longer curved inward in uncertainty. The invisible burden they had carried since childhood, the feeling of being different, of being quietly pulled towards something inexplicable, no longer made them shrink. Instead, it lifted them, their spine aligned with a sense of grounded purpose, as though the earth itself steadied them and the sky above urged them to rise. Each breath grew deeper, steadier, strengthening a presence that felt older than their years. The sound of their own voice surprised them when they finally spoke. It was the same voice they had always known, but layered now with a calm resonance that hadn't existed before. It carried clarity, steadiness, and a quiet authority that did not come from confidence but from alignment. Alignment with who they truly were. Alignment with the power they were born to wield. Every syllable reverberated faintly in the air, as though the world listened more intently to them now than it ever had before. A faint aura began to form, not the explosive radiance of the awakening, but a subtle, steady glow that wrapped around them like a mantle of warmth. It was neither blinding nor overwhelming. It flickered gently, mirroring the steady heartbeat of a soul that had finally opened its eyes. This aura did not announce power through force. It expressed it through presence. It was the energy of someone who had stepped across a threshold that could never be crossed twice. Someone who had tasted who they could become and could no longer retreat into who they once were. As the hero stood beneath the fading starlight, the forest seemed to watch them with new eyes. The trees swayed softly, their leaves brushing one another in whispers that carried through the clearing like ancient praise. The wind, once violent, now caressed the hero gently, circling them almost reverently. Even the soil beneath their feet felt warmer, as if acknowledging the return of something the world had missed for far too long. They understood now that what had awakened within them was not an accident. It was not a curse, nor was it a burden meant to crush them beneath its weight. It was a purpose, a calling, a truth that had slept inside them since the moment of their birth. Their life had not been ordinary. It had been preparation. Every strange feeling, every whisper of the wind, every moment of inexplicable pull toward the unknown, each had been a stepping stone toward this revelation. They remembered the questions that had haunted them in the quiet hours of the night. Why did they feel so different? Why did they sense such profound loneliness even among the people who loved them? Why did the world seem to pause for them in ways it never did for others? The answers now stood before them like an open doorway. They were different because they were meant to be. They felt alone because no one else was born holding this ancient flame. The world bent around them because destiny had recognized them long before they had recognized themselves. The acceptance of this truth did not arrive with sudden clarity. It unfolded slowly, like dawn light stretching across a valley. At first the hero resisted it, clinging to the last pieces of their old life, the quiet mornings in the village, the simple laughter, the comfort of anonymity. But the more they tried to hold on to these fragments, the clearer it became that stepping forward did not mean abandoning who they had been. It meant honoring that version of themselves by becoming who they were meant to be. A soft warmth spread through their chest as the realization settled fully. Awakening was not merely the eruption of power, it was the acceptance of identity. It was permission to step into a role shaped not by desire for glory, but by necessity, by truth, by balance. The power they held was not meant to dominate or terrify. It was meant to restore, to protect, to heal what the world could not mend on its own. In the reflection of a small pool nearby, the hero caught sight of themselves. Their face, once soft with uncertainty, now carried a quiet determination. Their expression was not hardened by arrogance or heightened by fear. It was the expression of someone who finally understood the weight of the path before them and accepted it, not because they must, but because they were uniquely capable of walking it. They knelt by the water, tracing the ripples with a trembling hand. The reflection shimmered, flickering between who they were and who they were becoming. And in that shifting image, they saw something they had never noticed before. A gentle strength, a fierce compassion, and a profound connection to the world around them. These were not traits granted by the awakening. They had been there all along, waiting for the power to illuminate them. A deep, steady breath left their lungs, carrying with it the remnants of doubt that clung stubbornly to the edges of their mind. They rose once more, eyes focused, steps grounded, presence unmistakably transformed. The hero had crossed the point of no return, not with violence or fear, but with acceptance. Acceptance of the power within them, of the destiny before them, and, most importantly, of themselves. As the moon emerged from behind the clouds and bathed the clearing in silver light, the hero whispered a single promise. It was not loud, it was not grand, but it carried a depth the forest could feel and the stars could hear. It was the promise of someone who had embraced their identity fully, someone who would no longer run from fate, but walk beside it as an equal. And thus, the transition was complete. They were no longer merely a child of the village, no longer a wanderer searching for meaning, no longer a vessel of hidden power. They were the wielder of destiny, awakened, aligned, unshakable. And in accepting themselves, they had become unstoppable. As the final echoes of awakening faded into the quiet of the night, the world around the hero seemed to settle into a new rhythm, as though it had finally exhaled after holding its breath for far too long. The journey that had brought them to this moment felt vast, stretching from the first trembling whispers of destiny to the explosive surge of power that tore through the darkness and carved their mark into the fabric of existence. The call of destiny had reached them when they were still unsure of who they were, a quiet pull that tugged at their heart long before they understood its meaning. It had guided them through moments of confusion and wonder, whispering promises of a purpose greater than anything they had imagined. From there, the forces within them had risen and erupted with unstoppable ferocity, revealing a strength older than the mountains and brighter than the stars. Now, in the calm that followed the storm, the hero stood transformed, not just by the power they wielded, but by the acceptance that had taken root deep within their spirit. They no longer questioned their place in the world. They no longer feared the weight of what they carried. Their heart had aligned with their destiny, and in that alignment, they had found clarity. This was not merely the story of a dormant force returning to life. This was the story of someone discovering who they had always been meant to become. Destiny's call had awakened them. Power had surged through them. And now, acceptance had shaped them into something unshakable. The forest around them felt different now, almost reverent. The ground still bore faint traces of golden cracks where energy had erupted. The air carried a lingering glow, as if particles of light were unwilling to leave the presence of the Chosen One. And in the hero's eyes, where embers of awakening flickered softly, there was a fire that no longer burned out of fear or uncertainty, but out of purpose. They took a slow breath and lifted their gaze toward the horizon, where the first hints of dawn began to bleed into the sky. The darkness receded inch by inch, revealing subtle shades of violet and gold that painted the world anew. It was fitting that dawn arrived now, at this precise moment, as if the universe itself recognized the birth of a legend. This was not the end of their story. It was only the threshold, the moment before the true journey begins. Ahead of them lay trials, battles, miracles, and revelations yet unseen. The forces that had slumbered for centuries would soon rise to challenge them. Shadows would gather, kingdoms would tremble, and the world would once again balance on the edge of fate. The hero knew they would be called to stand in places where courage alone would not be enough. They would need wisdom, discipline, and heart. Yet none of this frightened them now, not after the awakening, not after seeing the truth of who they were meant to be. And as the sun's first ray touched the clearing, the question that lingered in the air carried both excitement and foreboding. And this is only the beginning. What will happen when the Chosen One enters the battlefield? If you want more legendary awakening stories, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.